Rack City, bitch. Rack City, bitch. Rack City, bitch. Rack. I got no feelings to go. I swear I had it up to here. I got no ceilings to go. I mean, for real. Fuck how you feel. I woke up in Chris Brown's body. Mommy, you remind me of something. You remind me. I don't know what it is. Was it on that beat? I know your name, but you heard my name. Whoa. I know why you came. Trying to get that.
I love to get on. I love to get to one. I know will. You ain't got no bottle. Let's just be honest.
OVO crew, nigga, thought I told you. If you a player in the game, this should hold you.
Hip-hop has always been around since the late 70s and the early 80s. There are always countless artists and rappers who had amazing runs in their careers, meaning they have a significant success and influence in certain years which established their career. Not to mention, each decade, the sound of music is always changing and a new sound is always emerging and dominating that wave. Now, usually, it's a rapper or artist who dominates, but in this video, a producer who had a crazy run using the same formula and same beat pattern, creating countless hits from it. So, in the early to mid 2010s, one man had the year on lock, and that man was DJ Mustard. Between 2013 and 2014, maybe 15, Mustard didn't just produce hits, he created a whole movement, a sonic wave that completely reshaped the sound of mainstream rap and R&B. If you were at any club, concert, on social media even, you were bound to hear a song that DJ Mustard produced to be played. Now, speaking in general, what's so good and special about music at this time that came from the West Coast is that their sound is very unique and vibrant. The West Coast got such a distinct sound as to where when you hear the first 3 seconds of the song, you already know which region the artist or producer is from. The snapping drums, the bouncy bass lines, the simple stiff melodies. Now, speaking for DJ Premier, you could always tell, and it's very easy to tell that he produced a song because he starts off his beats with the same melody, and right before the beat drop, you literally hear his tags. It's called Mustard on the Beat Ho. Whether it was a song by Tyga, Nipsey Hussle, YG, no matter Chris Brown, Mustard production was everywhere. For 2 years, the music industry was operated inside DJ Mustard's sonic blueprint. But what made his run so remarkable wasn't just the number of hits, it was how one producer from Los Angeles took the DNA of West Coast club music and turned it into the dominant sound for mainstream hip-hop. A sound so influential that producers across the country began copying the formula and his beat style. A sound that brought the West Coast back into the center of hip-hop's central conversation. And a sound that proved something powerful. Sometimes the most effective music isn't always that complicated. Sometimes it's the simplest. This is a story of how DJ Mustard had 2013, 2014, and 2015 completely on lock. Before the platinum hits, the Billboard dominance, the Not Like Us diss, DJ Mustard was just another kid in Los Angeles trying to find and control a crowd. Mustard didn't come into the game like most producers. He wasn't sitting in a bedroom making beats for years, chasing placements. He was outside, in real environments, house parties, high school events, small clubs across LA. He started DJing as a teenager, mentored by his uncle, sharpening his ear not for complexity, but for reaction. What makes people move? What makes a crowd go crazy? What makes a record hit instantly? That became his education, because when you're DJing in Los Angeles, especially in the mid to late 2000s, you're not just playing music, you're navigating a specific regional sound. Now, unlike the New York rap scene, LA wasn't solely focused on the lyrics and the lyrical miracle as rappers. It was built on vibes and energy. Now, in the 90s, Dr. Dre was dominating LA completely. Like, nobody was competing with Dr. Dre. He dropped The Chronic, 2001, Doggy Style, and he dropped or produced Get Rich or Die Trying. Now, moving on to the 2010s, the entire sound shifted. It transitioned into the jerkin era with acts like the New Boys. It was the more party-driven and oriented, less about the lyrics and more about the catchy hooks and vibes. This sound was mainly for the house parties, the clubs, and the functions. Watching all of this going down in real time, Mustard learned something most producers never fully understood. Complexity doesn't move crowds, rhythm does. In a club, nobody cares about layered instrumentation, advanced chord progressions, or technical production tricks. They care about the bounce, the familiarity, and the energy. If the beats hit, it hits. That's it. As a DJ, Mustard had a huge advantage over traditional producers. He got instant feedback. If a song didn't hit, the crowd told you immediately. If a song worked, you saw it in real time. People dancing, reacting, lose control. That feedback loop trained Mustard to recognize one thing above all: what works in real life. not in theory, not in headphones, but in the function. By the way, if you didn't know how DJ Mustard got his name from, it's literally from the actual Dijon Mustard. His name is Dijon Mustard.
Message.
So instead of Mustard trying to be the next Dr. Dre, DJ Quick, Daz Dillinger, he simplified his own sound. He didn't overproduce his beats, didn't overcomplicate them, and that's what made them different. Now, all of this matters because before Mustard was going to be mainstream, he had already mastered one thing, and that was to control the crowd. So once he brought that into the studio with countless artists, it was only a matter of time until the world would start to catch on. Alright, so before Mustard will literally make millions off of the same beat, he will have his very first hit song with no other than Tyga. Tyga and Mustard were the perfect combination at the right time. Tyga had the image, the voice, and the mainstream appeal. Mustard had the sound, but more importantly, they both understood one thing. They weren't trying to make deep records. They were trying to make records that hit instantly, music that people didn't have to think about, just feel. Then came the record that changed everything for both Tyga and DJ Mustard, and that song was Rack City. At first listen, it almost sounds too simple. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's what makes a song so good. No complex structure, no dramatic build-up, just pure repetition and energy. But that simplicity was genius, because Rack City wasn't trying to impress you, it was designed to stick in your head immediately, and it worked. That song peaked at number 7 on the Hot 100 and actually brought momentum to Mustard's career. Also, Tyga doesn't always get full credit for this moment, but he was super essential. He knew how to ride Mustard's beats perfectly. Rack City was the first domino. After that, the industry couldn't ignore what was happening. Labels took notice, artists started calling, the sound started spreading everywhere in Los Angeles or the West Coast region. And Mustard would immediately go from a local DJ with a formula to the architect of a new era in hip-hop. Because once that first wave hit, there was no stopping it. And next, in 2013, that sound doesn't just grow, it takes over everything. Between 2012 and 2013 is when things really started picking up for Mustard and his songs started coming out. At the start of 2013, Mustard's sound was still heavily associated with the West Coast, but that was about to change because now artists outside of LA started tapping in, and once that happened, the sound began to spread nationwide. One of the first major records to push that shift was I'm Different by 2 Chainz, and it was crazy because during this time, the South had producers like Mike Will Made It and Lex Luger, Southside 808, having an immense influence on the music. They showcased the heavy 808s, layered synths, and aggressive drums, but the production on I'm Different was completely stripped down and minimal, which is why it was such a hit. Then in 2013, another major hit was released, which was a Ty Dolla $ign song called Paranoid. That song changed the perception of Mustard completely. This is because Mustard mainly only worked with rappers. This record was the first time Mustard would work with an R&B artist but still have the bounce Mustard brought. So this proved Mustard could cross over genres and create his songs. Mustard was super consistent at this time as well. He of course worked on other songs for other artists, but in this video, we only talking about the hit songs. No offense.
Message.
As many of you may know, YG is very closely associated with Mustard, and they will also create some songs together as well. If I'm not mistaken, YG was actually the first artist in general to work with Mustard before both of their careers would skyrocket and go mainstream. But YG brought something totally different to Mustard's production, where Tyga leaned heavily into flashy club energy. YG brought raw street authenticity. Since Mustard beats were super simple, minimal, and bounce heavy, YG filled that space with attitude and presence. The first record or major record that came out was the song My Nigga. The song was a cultural hit. The hook said it all. My nigga, my nigga. Now, if you white, you better not say it either. And don't even bother trying it with the my brother, or the my homie. None of that shit either. That shit not flying. Now, the song My Nigga, it was a part of a larger wave that YG and Mustard was building together. Songs like Who Do You Love featuring Drake and Left and Right were some of the bangers that YG and Mustard made together and on YG's album My Crazy Life, and it was exclusively produced by Mustard. Mustard also produced Up and Down for T-Pain, which featured B.O.B. At this point in time, Mustard wasn't just making beats anymore. He was shaping artist sounds, regional identity, and mainstream trends. He became the architect of an era, and with YG as his primary collaborator, that vision became fully realized. By the end of this phase, the formula was perfected. The sound was undeniable, the hits were everywhere, but what comes next will take things even further, because in 2014, Mustard doesn't just dominate in hip-hop, he takes over R&B, pop crossover records, and the entire mainstream, and at that point, the sound becomes impossible to escape. By the time 2014 arrived, the groundwork had already been laid. 9 times out of 10, if a song was getting played on the radio, it was most likely produced by DJ Mustard. Up until this point, Mustard was mainly seen as a West Coast producer, a club specialist, and a rap hitmaker. But in 2014, that label started to disappear because now Mustard wasn't just producing for rappers, he was producing mainstream hits across genres. The sound didn't change much, but the audience got way bigger. One of the biggest records of this era was Show Me by Kid Ink featuring Chris Brown. This record was a perfect example of Mustard's evolution. Chris Brown was probably at the peak of his career at the time, so having him on your song was a huge plus in having a hit record. Also, Kid Ink and Chris Brown will collaborate again and do a song called Main Chick, and both of those songs are on Kid Ink's sophomore album, My Own Lane. Alright, to make it a long story short, I'm gonna list some songs DJ Mustard did in 2014. Trey Songz, Nana. He did a remix to Or Nah by Wiz Khalifa featuring Ty Dolla $ign, 2 On by Tinashe featuring Schoolboy Q, 24 Hours by T-Fly featuring 2 Chainz, and more. Honestly, DJ Premier had 2 very big records in 2014 with Ayo by Chris Brown featuring Tyga and Post B by Omarion featuring Chris Brown and Jhené Aiko. It's just insane because he honestly did use the same technique for every one of his beats and had a hit song from it. He started off each song with the same style and rhythm and then the same drum pattern and all. But it really doesn't matter though because the song was always a banger at the end of the day. I'm probably missing even more songs as well, but oh well. This is not a full-blown documentary on every DJ Mustard song he produced. But at this point in time, it was no longer fair to call Mustard's run a trend. This was an era. By 2014, DJ Mustard had already done what most producers spend entire careers chasing. DJ Mustard released his debut project 10 Summers. He named it 10 Summers because it was supposed to be a signal of longevity. It was basically built to last 10 summers long or 10 summers straight. That confidence is abhorrent because at this time, his sound was everywhere. The album of course featured the artists he mainly worked with like YG, Ty Dolla $ign, 2 Chainz, Big Sean, and even Lil Wayne. What made Mustard's run so unique wasn't just creativity, it was consistency. So by the time 10 Summers dropped, listeners already knew what to expect, and that was the advantage because instead of chasing trends, Mustard became the trend. Every record felt familiar enough to enjoy instantly, but fresh enough to keep people engaged. That balance is extremely difficult to maintain. However, more people were starting to call out Mustard for being repetitive and boring. Nonetheless, Mustard had the game on lock. Even past 2014 and 2015, he had hits like Don't Tell Him by Jeremiah, I Don't Fuck With You by Big Sean, Be Real by Kid Ink featuring Dej Loaf. In 2016, he did Needed Me by Rihanna. He also signed Ella Mai to his label and did an entire debut EP. It's safe to say that DJ Mustard is one of the greatest producers of this generation. In hip-hop, dominance doesn't last forever. Sounds evolve, trends shift, new waves always come and go. But every once in a while, a producer captures a moment so perfectly that it defines an entire era. From 2013 to 2014, that producer was DJ Mustard. What made Mustard's run so impactful wasn't complexity, it was the opposite. He proved that simple beats can dominate charts, minimal production can create maximum impact, and repetition can be more powerful than innovation. At a time when music was becoming more layered and dramatic, Mustard stripped everything down, and in doing so, he made something universal. During his 2-year stretch, or 3 years, maybe 4, Mustard evolved into something more than a hitmaker. He was a trendsetter, a tastemaker, and the architect of an entire sound. Not to mention, Mustard swept the Grammys when he did Not Like Us and GNX. I think the song, I forgot the song name. But he did it for Kendrick Lamar. So his seat in being one of the greatest producers of all time, not all time, but in this generation is locked. So tell me what you think, because I like to know what you think. Is DJ Mustard one of the greatest producers of this generation? So let me know, because I genuinely want to know. Anyways, that's the video. The video is over. I love you, no pause. All right, well.